Hi, everybody, and we are live. Thanks for joining me. I'm pretty happy to be streaming tonight. Actually, this is I've been looking forward to this one since the demo at the weekend, the Anti-Pedophilia demo. I think most of you know. A lot of you were actually there, so I don't know how much I need to go through the basics with you. But thanks for. Oh, there we go. That's me. But yeah, thanks for joining me. I can see you all there in the chat. Yeah. You know what? I just want to kind of ramble about it because there was just a lot going on, and like even since Saturday has occurred, I've had this. And let me know, sound okay? By the way, I'm getting a little buzz back through my headphones. But cool. Someone says good sound. But I don't know. It's like since coming up to Saturday, I had like a slight feeling of. I always have a slight feeling of unease, maybe because I'm like anyone who knows me privately, let's say, and there's a few of you kind of will be in the chat who will know that like the question I kept asking myself was what kind of shenanigans do our enemies have up their sleeves? What's waiting for us? Because the way I I maybe call me paranoid, but I like to just be think cautiously, or be prepared, mentally prepared for things. And yeah, I like to treat some of these demos as much as they're a good thing to do, and it went very well. But I like to think of them as like those ghost trains in a fun fair. You go into them and like you're trundling through in this little cart, and you know that somewhere something's going to pop out at you, and you go around one corner, you go around the other, nothing's happened, but you're telling yourself, don't get too cozy now, because the whole point of this thing is that there's a thing waiting here to jump out at you, and you don't know where it is. You don't know whether it comes from the top, the bottom, from the side, or the back, or what it'll be. Will it be a jet of air? Will it be some man jumps out? Whatever. That's how I see these demos. So in a way, I don't advocate for demos willy-nilly. You have to be very smart about these things. And when I say they, I'm talking about Antifa, I'm talking about NGOs, I'm talking about some kind of person in the media. Even potentially you see it in, let's say, America and Britain a little bit. State agencies can get involved too. It's not a conspiracy theory at all. CIA, FBI, and all that stuff in the US. And just generally just federal, like even like just the kind of political apparatus, like the entire kind of police force, basically just kind of sabotaging you or trapping you, stuff like that. I think you know the type of events I'm talking about. I keep that in mind. I just think there are booby traps everywhere, and so I was a little bit apprehensive. And by booby traps, in case you're wondering, I'm talking about agent provocateurs, I don't know, all sorts of plants. I think that's one of the, I don't mean to give them advice, but like that's the kind of thing I try to anticipate. Anyway, so I was thinking about that, really looking forward to it, assuming it'll probably go well, but also just rather than being goofy going into it and excited, I think it's probably wiser to worry about it. And then Saturday came and went. Well, it didn't just come and go. It was a really good day. There's lots to talk about there, but it came and went. And since I will talk all about Saturday, but since then, which is not been long, a day and a bit, well, 2 days really. I don't know. I feel like obviously there's a big buzz in the air because it went well, unequivocally. Well, excuse me. I could pick out, and the other thing I do after a positive event like this is pick through it to see what could have been better. And there are one or two little things. I don't think I'll even go into those, but yeah, someone asked me, was it me on the fence on Saturday? Yes, it was, yeah. But yeah, there's been this great buzz since then, and just, I don't know, I'm seeing people release all sorts of stuff. I'm seeing, not to plug people who are probably bigger than me and have bigger names and stuff, but like just to recommend them. We have Angela Nagel. I don't have her piece up in front of me, actually, funnily enough. I can search for it. Angela Nagel released a article, or like she didn't release it. She had an article of hers published in a thing called Unheard, some publication. But it's really, really good. And I'm very proud of Angela Nagel as a Irish person. I'm just looking for it now, sorry. Just as an Irish person, I think she's one of Ireland's, if you could kind of call her mainstream, I literally can't find it. Where did it go? Yeah, if you could call her mainstream, I think she kind of is. Like, she's respectable and all of that. And as a respectable, let's say, public intellectual, so I'm narrowing it down a bit there, so I don't want to be too flattering. But as in terms of that, she is one of Ireland's finest, and actually one of the world, I would say, of a kind of millennial thinker, you know. And some people might criticize her from both sides, but I think she's a lot to be proud of. She's so it's called "Will Ireland Survive the Woke Wake? If your economy is ruled from California, then your culture will be too." So it's this kind of anti-woke left, kind of, I don't know, I think it has nods. It's in that position where like radical dissident right and anti-woke left converge, you know, that kind of thing. And it's really good. I'm actually going to throw it into the chat now. And I will get onto the title of the video. Someone might be giving out, potentially telling me to talk about what I said I'd talk about, but you know the way I'd be. But I see that. I see Angela Nagel, and then I see the Burkean have an article up called March for Innocence Retrospective, the emergence of a new political era. And they're kind of talking about, I'll just give you the ending. Sorry to like ruin it on them. I encourage you to read this article. I'm not going to read it out to you. 2 seconds now. No, I'm seeing some crazy chat going on here. I'm going to more or less ignore it. But I mean, I'll leave that to you lads. But so the Burkean article concludes with something I've been thinking about as well. Overall, the protest will be remembered as marking a turning point for the political right in Ireland. In the past, populist elements have been largely shrugged off as irrelevant by the centre, while the left believed they would always outnumber the right on the streets. Saturday marked a complete shattering of both viewpoints and demonstrated how populism is becoming a growing force on this island. In short, it marks 2020 as the start of a new political era, with civil war politics over. New ideas and new politics have never had a better chance to shine. The Irish right used to be non-existent. Now it is anything but. So, I mean, that's almost getting huffed up on your own, like, you know, Delira a little bit there, but it's not as well. It's true. It is true. I'm getting those same vibes, and it is populism, I think, more than conservatism. No offense to conservatives. No, it is, you know, is it a distinction really even between populism and conservatism? But it's got populist, cool, big energy. It hasn't got stale, you know, kind of conservative energy, if you get me. It's different. It's much different. And by the way, there's loads of people in that crowd who, like, if you were to ask them, they'd consider themselves, like, if you didn't have like people coming out calling them far right, and you were to just ask them, they would consider themselves lefties. The actor slash, I don't know, political enthusiast. Sorry for cursing there, but someone says no sound. No sound, what? Is it back? Is it gone? It's weird if it's gone, because usually it goes robot. And now you're telling me it's just gone. So I'm definitely not, I didn't mute myself anyway. Sorry about this. Am I back? Oh, I'm back. Okay. So I'm again, and look, I apologize. I've done the spiel here many times. I've bad internet, but I'm living well in the country, so I'm happy for now. We'll meet each other halfway, right? Yeah, John Connors. I hope I'll have to listen back to one of these streams sometime and see how it's for you. But he I don't know. He just I know, I actually didn't speak to him, not for any particular reason. I'll get onto that as well. It's like speaking to people at these things can be hard. Um, um, I'd say I didn't come in within 20 feet of him, type of thing. It's these things are big, and you're talking to lots of people, and they're over before you know it. But his speech was just really, really good. I mean, the man has. It's one of these things where you shouldn't be surprised. Like, I remember he put up like a 2-minute video on Twitter about the Roderick O'Gorman thing or whatever, because I was following that story. I was watching his video, eagerly, and I had a look at it. And 2 minutes after I'd watched it, or just after I'd watched it, I was like, God, you know what I mean? This guy really, like, based on the video I just saw, this guy really has a knack for getting in front of a camera and saying stuff. I mean, I got to hand it to him. Am I delayed again? Someone's giving me loading. People could easily start trolling me with that, but I'm just going to keep talking, and you can let me know. But yeah, I was like, that guy has really got a knack for getting in front of a camera, saying stuff in a way that is compelling or, engaging. I was like, whoa, I wonder where he got that from. I think, oh, he's an actor. That's literally his job, isn't it? To stand in front of a camera and like perform, to say stuff, to speak. But this was no acting. You could, and it's so rare these days to see somebody speak. Think of how rare this is. No offense, I'm not taking the piss out of like I don't know, gay people or black people or climate change people or this or that, all the different things that are out there, right? And mostly speaking, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, all this stuff. Just the whole overall general world of politics. How often do you see someone stand up in front of a crowd and, mean it? A person who cares and is sincere and passionate. It's very rare. And I saw a lot of that between Justin and Paddy Manning and Dolores and everyone else, right? But especially with John, you saw someone there speaking in defiance. Also a man who's got something to potentially lose. Like I said, I don't know him, but he's got some kind of acting career. It could be on and up, it could be on and down now, but either way, he's got an acting career that he's kind of putting out there a little bit. Unfortunately, that's the way the world is. He's, you know what I mean? He's got a big profile and a lot of, like, I assume, friends in the kind of establishment set in a certain kind of way. You couldn't not if you've been on TV and this and that and everything else. So to come from that, I'm not saying he comes from that milieu, but to be related in some way, to have connections to that milieu and to step up and to say your piece in complete defiance is, I don't know. I was very inspired to stand there and watch it. One thing I have to say, I was saying it to lots of people on Saturday, and it kind of bothers me, is that I got someone asked me about climbing up on a fence, and I got up on the fence at the Dáil to record. It occurred to me when Paddy Manning was speaking, and as soon as I got up there, I went, "This is the best shot you could possibly get of this event." I was getting the crowd, the speaker, everything looked amazing, great sound, everything. And it just occurred to me then, and no offense to Paddy or anyone else, but John's was my favorite speech, and I actually feel, I kind of feel like I let his speech down by not having it occur to me sooner to get up there. But still, it's out there. Gran Torino, lots of people, different people recorded it, so that's great. Anyway, regardless. But yeah, I'm rambling really here. It's kind of the best way to do it, because I do just want to kind of talk, like, talk about it in general, not overly formulaic here. So the other thing I should talk about is the Antifa response. I hope I have covered that well enough. Oh, I just have to say one thing more. When I say the buzz has been good, it's just that there's such a united spirit. Oh, there's so much to say, lads. Like, I could. Oh, someone says the audio's going again. Sorry, boys and girls. Okay, so I'm just randomly talking inane stuff. 5 by 5. Okay, so yeah, point I'm trying to make is that, like, because I have a face out there and stuff like that, I could be convinced or tricked going to one of these events into thinking that I'm like a well known or something like that, just because we're in our own. I'm in with my own kind of crowd. Um, but really, it's just that people are nice, so sound. Um, people who say hi, and anyone who's got a face out there on any online thing in our movement will get this. Like, but people just coming up and saying sound. I mean, I forget. I'm forgetting the connection. Some of you are obviously watching now. It's so nice in real life because I'm sitting here talking to you now, and the chat's just flying by, and then I'm I see Emmanuel Godson. You know what I mean? I've met Emmanuel already, so I make the connection. But then I'm there on Saturday, and there's a lot of you in the chat who, or even maybe not even in the chat, but just watching, who I don't know you at all. And someone emerges and says, "Hi, Garrod. I watch your videos. Some people watch them regularly." I was like, Jesus, appreciate it, and like what you do, and thanks very much, and all that. And I do wish, because it's so fast moving, even like Dave Cullen and Rowan and all these people, I find I see them across the thing. I'm like, oh, I must go have a chat with them. No, it's been ages, and then I end up leaving, and it's like, God, I didn't talk to so and so. But I do wish for all the people who come up and say they watch the channel. That's such a mad privilege that I feel like sitting down. I feel like saying, let's leave now, go for a coffee or a drink, and sit down for an hour and talk. If you watch me on the fucking internet, I surely should sit down and chat to you. But obviously, I can't do that, and no one can. We're all busy at it, just running around. It's cool. It's really, really nice, and I appreciate it. I especially want to give a shout out to there was a very nice lady who came up to me. She was really, really friendly, and she said she watches, and has a very kind of, or not a very, but quite a specific name. I'm not going to say what the name is, but it's a very recognizable, distinct, unique kind of name. So I said I would do a shout out, and she was like, "Well, maybe with the name, but I would love the shout out." And she'll know what I mean. Miss Molly was our kind of a pseudonym. There was a reason, there's a story behind that. But Miss Molly, big shout out. Really appreciate it. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm not very good at this kind of stuff. But yeah, that was very nice of you to come up to me. So what else was there? Positivity. I just look at stuff like, it's such a mad feeling, because there was a time I used to I tried to patrol the thing where the Nazi Antifa agent provocateur showed up. And there's been times I kind of felt like I was slightly innovating on how to, or, not innovating, but like trying to keep control of this wild kind of situation. They used to be a bit like that. And I felt like I was one of the few who was maybe aware of things and trying to, and I was learning myself. Now I get there now, and everybody knows it's not my doing. It's just collectively we've raised our consciousnesses. Now I get there, and I'm like, it's mad, because it's not just Rowan, and it's not just so and so and so and so on YouTube. It's almost like everyone there, because we all like talk to each other in some way, even via stuff like what we're doing now here. We're all kind of on up to speed on various things. So it's like everybody there knows. You try to have your camera pointed in every direction. So no matter what op is done against us, we have it in each direction. Try not to react to things, and we'll get onto that. But generally speaking, try not to anyway, and all this kind of stuff. It's just great, because you're like, wow, there's like 1,000 odd people, maybe a bit less, whatever, something big number of people who are like really woke. Like, these are not passive activists we're talking about. We are talking about extremely engaged activists or protesters or whatever you want to call it. So that's cool. And then the other thing is I look at stuff again. I keep mentioning him. He's just the probably the biggest example, I suppose, is Gran Torino, and you name it. Like, there's loads more. There's Count Kalergi. There's this, that, the other. Loads, right? Of people who are like seasoned videographers. They're streamers. They're this, they're that. They write articles. They do all this stuff, and I could see them all around the crowd doing their thing. And it's just lovely to, I almost kind of stood back almost and just watched it all happen, and it was lovely. I'm thinking it's such a rich culture at this point, and kind of infrastructure in a way. And then you have the Burkean releasing these kind of like very sophisticated articles and think pieces and stuff like that. And I look at someone, let me find it now. Connor Fitzgerald. Just, I mean, someone I know on online. You know, I don't want to stereotype the guy. I don't know what he likes to call himself or whatever, but it's just this kind of stuff. It's like, I don't have to actually have, and I'm not like a cloistered man. I'm not like only Irish people I'll talk to. I love the international scene and community and stuff, but I do take pride in the Irish thing. And I tweeted just earlier, I've linked it in the chat. I tweeted just earlier randomly, I said, why is it that terms like woke, mob, cancel culture, and what was it? Certain terms like groupthink. Why is it that terms like that just annoy me? They're kind of Quillette tier kind of terms, or like Titania McGrath, if you know what I'm getting at, hopefully. But there's something about them just kind of instinctually annoys me when I see them. And what is it about those? I kind of get it, but I kind of don't have, I haven't fleshed it out in my mind. And Connor Fitzgerald, who I know, who's Irish, comes back to me with, he's done a Medium post, like an article basically, on cancel culture is a stupid term and you shouldn't use it. And I read it and I went, that's perfect. Like, very, very well done fleshing out of exactly that. So it's just great to have that kind of human resources in our scene. Not just in our scene internationally, but actually within Ireland. I do remember years ago, what would it be, like 4 years ago now, I suppose, around that, maybe even less. And I remember I despaired, because I was going, there's like a couple of people online. There literally was no YouTuber. There was no YouTuber. There was no anyone. There was like, not trying to insult people and all that jazz, but Keith Woods was there as well. Yeah. Enjoying it immensely. I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but I think I saw a chuffed Keith Woods at that thing as well. Actually, a lot of people as well. I feel like Dave Cullen was the same. It was just great to see people. I feel like everybody else was kind of feeling the way I did about it. So naturally. But like, what was I going to say? Is that a couple of years ago, we had basically no one. There was no YouTuber, no nothing. All you had was, like, I am not insulting anyone here, but you had the Iona thing and the kind of that whole jazz. McGurk, Iona, I think that's like the same thing. David Quinn and like the Irish Independent being like, the left aren't as tolerant as they say they are. That type of, and that was it. End of story, right? And I remember looking out into that wilderness, and here we are all these years later. We haven't taken over the world because, Pinky and the Brain style, but, like you could say we're small and we're this. It depends, relatively speaking, where you look, but by comparison, it is night and day. It's massive. Like I say, the Berkey and all these writers, these various people, someone mentions Dave Cullen, 500,000 subs. I'm sure he doesn't overly pride himself like that, but he's just an excellent, I don't know, he should be on like news talkers. He should like be like Ireland's broadcaster, I think. All this Angelo Bottone, I hope I pronounced that wrong, says Iona is great. I don't even know much about Iona. All I'm saying is that it's a different, I'm just saying there's more added onto that, whatever. You get what I'm saying anyway. It's moved on, not away from that or against that, just on top of that and everything beyond. So my point being, not only do you have all that, but then I'm looking around and I'm going, I don't know. I feel like before it was like I had a YouTube channel that I barely touched for a while. I'd do the odd video, and now I stream because of COVID-19. I got into this, and it kind of felt like there was like a handful of YouTubers, Irish ones, and then mine was kind of on the back burner for a while, and then I was doing it. I felt like I was one of like, I don't know, 5 or something like that. And now I'm looking around me and I feel like everybody's YouTubing. And I don't mean this in a smarmy fake way. I like that. I'm delighted with that because I'm listening to another one. I just want to give a shout out to. Again, his channel's like the same size as mine. This isn't like a thing, but Conan Mack. You know, his videos are like 10 minutes long. He's got a nice fella. You sit down in the pub and you talk to him for 10 minutes, and he just has a great kind of way about him, which is how we would say it in Cork, to just kind of rattle off a story in a way that isn't overly, it's not basic by any means. He's transferring a lot of important ideas, but it's in a casual, at the pub kind of way, and they're usually confined to about 10 odd minutes, and it's a perfect style. And again, I don't say that in any fakey way, because it's like, it's not really a competition, is it? Because like, I don't know, no one does videos exactly the way I do it, and no one does videos the way Rowan does it, and the way Conan Mack does it, and the way, I don't know, take your pick. Like everybody's different, and that I'm convinced has a multiplier effect. Just you're basically just flooding the marketplace. That you're kind of flooding the scene. You're creating, out of each branch comes another branch and another smaller branch and twigs, and then those twigs grow, and it's just kind of, it's an energy thing. It's a kind of whatever the opposite of entropy is, maybe momentum, and I love it. And then you have the parties as well. The parties is a little bit more tricky. I'll be honest. I'm not going to start pointing fingers at anyone. That's the last thing I want to do. I'd make enemies for myself pretty quickly there, wouldn't I? If I were, I usually wouldn't even bother. If I have a thought in my mind on that, unless it's really important, I'd keep it to myself. Whatever, life goes on. You know, I'm trying not to be too much of a control freak or like a nagger or something like that. But and then if I did have something that I felt was, you know, concerned me enough, I'd probably write to one of them and just kind of maybe say it or whatever, or just say, you know, I know people from a lot of the parties, but I mean, I'm going to be honest because I may as well be while I'm here, and then we'll get on to the fun Antifa stuff because it's very funny. Is that, you know, it's not so much a complaint or a concern, it's more of just a question and a wonder, because you have these various political parties and they're all different, and they all naturally are incentivized to kind of like maybe clear the pack, maybe excel. Political parties are all about politics. They are all about PR, public relations. Public relations involves competing. It involves competing. It involves standing out from the crowd. It involves all these things, which are all well and good, and the competition is good. But the competition can, you know, become as good as it is for the parties, and it's understandable that they do that. Competition itself can cross over from, you know, a healthy, normal, understandable thing into the point where it starts to actually be counterproductive and detrimental to what I think most people, like the 1,000 odd people who were out there who aren't party, or they're doing it on YouTube or this or that, they're people who are just into this stuff. Most people would consider the greater not good for the greater good. You know, most people aren't trying to hawk a YouTube or a party or anything. They just kind of want the best thing to happen, and the best things to happen all the time. And I do think potentially party competition and party trying to stand out from each other and to compete with each other, basically, like, a lot of the time it can be grand, but it's got the potential to be, I don't know, not quite as grand as would be ideal. But you know what I mean? It's whatever. Like, it's just, it's one of those things that, like, and I'm just being honest, because I could just whatever, I could just go along to get along. But it's like, it's just one of those things that, like, how would I say? I should have come up with an analogy before this. It's like, in every regard of everything, anything in life and in any kind of system or whatever, there's a potential for a thing to be negative or be positive. You know, a thing always has both potentials. And all I'm pointing out is that, like, parties and all of that don't just have endless potential to be endlessly useful and endlessly for the actual, like, you know, pure for the good of the greater objective cause. There's also the potential for parties, naturally, for reasons we can understand, to go outside of that. I don't know. I'm not overly worked up about it, but it's just one of those things. What am I going to do about it? C'est la vie. But the reason it occurs to me is that the ideal thing obviously would, and this is, you know, we're talking, I don't mean to be like, we're talking about real life here, so this is all ideal. But the ideal thing is that, like, you know, there would be complete, seamless, harmonious kind of negotiation and mutual negotiation going on, and with an aim purely, everyone basically laying down their ego or their brand or their whatever to ultimately pursue the best demos and the most productive, maximized, effective, good-looking demos, you know. And it's like, in a way, my fantasy of having all parties, whether political and otherwise, all parties present, thinking along those lines, and, you know, it's, I suppose you could say it's a bit utopian, but it's just one of those things. But in general, parties are great. Look at every party did really well at that. They set it up. They did loads of the work and all that stuff. I pretty much just attended, right? And most of you did too. So credit where it's due. Big credit where it's due. Then I suppose, could I move on to the Antifa? I mean, I just want to close on that point, or like finish on that point, just to say, infrastructure wise, we are in such a good position from where we used to be, and it's going to grow. It's great. I've already had people getting in touch with me, people who I know in ways unrelated to all this stuff I'm doing right now with you here, who are like, hey, what's the story there? I think people are a little bit interested, because power. And that's what Saturday kind of was in a way. It's power. If you show up with, I don't know, 1,000 odd people with good optics, keeping safe, looking good, having a great time, pursuing a big idea, you know, Roderick O'Gorman and all that, taking on the power structure in a way that actually reverberates a little bit, is attractive in and of itself. So I don't know. And like I say, all the infrastructure. Someone mentions the Don with his new website. I must link that. I'll link it in the description after the video. It's excellent stuff. That man is made for writing. And I don't know, I'm just so impressed. I don't know people, you know, I'm not saying we're all smart and everybody else is an idiot, but I just don't know any other scene in Ireland that has as rich an intellectual and activist tradition. And by rich, I mean, well, I just mean rich, but I also mean defiant and dissident and all that stuff. It's class. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm so delighted. So I suppose I can watch a few videos with you now, and most of you have seen this, but I think some of these are delightful anyway to regardless. So share audio, hope it works, fingers crossed. So let's have a look at. Okay, so you saw my thumbnail. It's just for those who don't know and for those who want a refresher on it, right? We have the thumbnail I showed you. Nice big crowd, great speeches, everything else. I mean, let's have a look at. Let's start with a look at John Connors' speech. 2 minutes of it, maybe even less. I might skip through it, and give me an audio check as well.
I'm speaking for myself. I'm a proud traveller, man, and I'm glad to see there's many travellers in the crowd supporting this. I'm a proud Kulak, and I'm glad to see there's many Kulak lads and girls in the crowd supporting this. And I'm a proud Irishman, and I'm glad to see all my Irish people in the crowd supporting this.
It's so good to see. I was just overjoyed. I don't know, for him to say he's a proud traveller man, he's a proud Kulak man, and he's a proud Irishman. And I don't know, it's like, I don't know. And the support from the crowd, it was just great. It's everything the establishment would like to tell you it doesn't exist. You know, and to be honest, I'm not trying to push this whole thing of like, oh, well, actually we should be diverse now for love and unity and loveliness and all this kind of stuff. I'm not. We do have our opinions on demographics and culture and this. We have all that. I'm not trying to dilute or work on that or in any way. But in my mind, if just as people saw in England, if a Muslim man came to attend and wanted to speak, because the image is that everyone would be like, you're a jihadi, you're a terrorist, and all this kind of stuff, right? In reality, I think if a Muslim guy came there, and it's interesting because it's funny because people there would be like, get up on that stage to hear your speech and kind of respect your point of view. Like, and it's funny because the nationalists would be like, we don't want loads of Muslims coming to our country. Like, your population in the country has already increased like tenfold. It's like blown up in the last 10, 15, 20 years. And we have our culture and tradition, and we're aware of the fact that if that keeps happening, eventually there'll be this kind of outsized influence and we'll lose our culture, And I think the Muslim guy, in a lot of ways, I think there's potential almost for him to be like, yeah, you get that. To be honest, you're the only ones who seem to get it. And I kind of respect in a strange way that you get it. And you have your point of view, and he could stick to the fact that he wants loads more Muslims. So you could go, well, at least we're kind of aware of each other. I don't know, and it's at least we're both serious kind of actors here, like, and know what's going on. We're not idiots, and you're not an idiot. And for now, you're against this kind of sex ed stuff and Roderick O'Gorman and Tatchell and all that. So get up on that stage, and people would give the guy a big applause. It's nice to see that kind of stuff. Of course, John isn't a Muslim. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying, as in like there is humanity and respect and decency and openness among nationalists, just not in a idiot way, like this whole thing. And that's the problem. I with the traveler thing as well, with John, I notice all these liberals, or whatever you call them, the NGOs and all that, are trying to co-opt travelers with like these various NGOs and stuff. Like, and they're kind of going, oh, travelers are just another part of the intersectional framework. And you're going, that's just not true. You know what I mean? I'm not saying travelers are homophobic and this and that, but like travelers are like, have traditional Catholic views. They're some of the most traditional people out there. And like, I mean, who's really more aligned in a certain type of way? Travelers and nationalists, or travelers and like, I can't say the word globo. I've come up with a new word, actually. It's called globo-pedo. Who's more aligned? Travelers and nationalists, Irish nationalists, who actually share a lot in common. It's just Irish people, proud Irish, largely conservative people, than travelers and globo-pedo. Come off the stage, lads. Travelers are trad, someone says there. Yeah. Not everybody. Everyone's different. But like in general, that's the way it is. So it's like all this stuff is a bit of a myth in a way, really. I've often said myself, like, the way you would be painted in a newspaper or something, people calling you this and that. It's like, like, what would you do if you were talking to a black person and someone found a comment online that said you were racist and showed it to that person? And would you feel like you're caught out or kind of awkward there or something? I'd be like, no. I'd be like, am I wrong for saying I don't want like 1 million of people from your country to come to my country? No. And I honestly, like, and I've had experiences of this where people, like, if you're open and upfront and all that about it, and you go, I've no problem with you, you know what I mean, as a person, but you know what I mean, all I want is what I would want for your country too, and what you would want for your country, and anybody would want. This is all bullshit. You know what I mean? We can actually get along even in nationalist terms, really. It's all just a big drama by these guys. Not denying realities of the world and stuff. I'm a nationalist, but like, you get my point. And this just showed it. This even John's speech and stuff like that. And again, see, that's the conflation, because for me to compare John to a foreigner is ludicrous. And I'm not so much doing that, but I'm just speaking. I'm kind of almost speaking to the left's framework that they present, in that all these people are like part of one big thing, and it's all very simple in that way. It's nonsense. And it was great to see. Someone asked me my opinion on Croke Park. They're going to hold like some Eid festival or Muslim festival in Croke Park. I mean, what am I supposed to say there? Like, no, that shouldn't be happening. I mean, no. Simple as. I'm saying that purely off instinct. I don't have some big brain way of making it sound kind of centrist and reasonable. Usually that's what I do. I haven't thought about it enough to have that in mind, but I'm going to go with my gut and let the brain follow on from there, I'd say. And my gut says, no, that just feels wrong. I don't know. It's just like Croke Park has an element of the sacred, of the Gaelic, of, that to it. I don't know. Now, you could say, what about like, I don't know, some twerking African American singer, or even like Miley Cyrus or whatever, this kind of degeneracy. I'm sure they've all twerked on the stage of Croke Park. So I suppose it is what it is. I don't know. You get what I mean? I'm thinking out loud on that. I obviously oppose it, just in general. But it's not my stadium, is it? So not much use what I think really right now, is it? But we'll get there. So back to John.
You know what? I have to say I am absolutely delighted that the fascist group known as Antifa showed up here today. I'm delighted because they have delegitimized every cause they ever fought for. Let's not forget one of the founders of Antifa Ireland is a paedophile himself. Patrick Corcoran. What's his name? Patrick Corcoran. Found with child pornography. This is what you're fighting for. You're leftists, this is what you're fighting for. Liberals. You're liberal! Are you serious? Oh my God, you make me fucking laugh.
I'm going to go back.
Are you serious?
Dave Cullen spotted, absolutely loving it. It's brilliant. I was the same. I had the same kind of look on my face. I was just like, yes.
Oh my God, you make me fucking laugh. You're hilarious. Trying to stop me, you have no idea. In the last 10 days, the amount of people have gotten onto me, the amount of accusations, labels, defamation, assassination of my character. My career is over. Apparently I'm cancelled again. I was cancelled a few years ago for defending the unborn, the most innocent life on planet Earth. And I came back from that. And that's because I am independent and I depend on nobody else for my own living. You make me laugh. All these accusations, it's gas, because these are the people who preach acceptance and tolerance and equality and peace and love. And these are the people who are calling me knacker and pikey on Twitter. Telling me, John, if you just back down, we'll back off.
This is what it's all about. I wanted to talk about this. I have to go back, right? If you back down, we'll back off. God, where was my thought on that? I was thinking about it earlier today. Just that because I've mentioned this concept before, actually, of like whether you're talking about a town in an asylum thing or an individual who's in the crosshairs of some media NGO witch hunt, that you've transgressed the values of Globo Pedo or whatever it is, right? Globo Pedo Inc. Sorry, just something in the chat there. But so, when you transgress it, what they do is almost like a police armbar, or some kind of armbar, like a judo type of thing or whatever, where the method of the restraint is that every time you resist and buck, they increase more and more pressure. And then the lesson becomes in the hold is that the more you are difficult, the more you cause trouble, the worse the pain gets. The less difficult you get and the more compliant you get, the more easy the pain gets, the less painful it becomes. And that's a kind of almost like a psychological training. I don't know, people could do that with animals or something, it's a bit cruel, but that kind of a physical, psychological method of exacting compliance from an individual or a group. That is exactly how the machine itself operates. I find they go stress level go up, stress level go down, and it's like Pavlov's dog, and they try to get it to correspond with your behavior. And that's exactly how it works. And he speaks directly to it. He says, they tell me if you back down, we back off. And, you know what to expect.
Telling me, John, if you just back down, we'll back off. If I back down, I will never back down, because this is a hill I will have to die on. If you cannot defend children, you're not worth living, in my opinion. What is wrong with you people? Now,
legendary, epic. It's just so rare these days to see someone, and it applies to a lot of people in this kind of general movement, is people who are committed and believe what they believe in spite of pressure. You know, how many people are of that persuasion, like a persuasion that warrants that kind of treatment these days? That's what I would say to like normies or whatever, someone who's like not maybe in agreement with me on everything, who's maybe just watching out of curiosity. I would say like, just because the entire establishment demonizes and targets you, and in a unique way, in a way that's unique in society, any other group, you're over target. Goes out, if someone goes out and does something, and you see articles in the newspaper and all of this calling them race, fascist, evil, blah blah. Just I'm saying I'm getting an echoey sound. Let me know when I return. You know I'm going away, or you know where I'm going with this. I'll keep talking. I'm rambling. You're going to let me know when I'm back. That's all. That's what's going to happen here. I'm lagging out. It's sad, isn't it? Oh, it's back. Echo. It's back. Oh, I'm good. So, yeah. Anyway, I shouldn't waste time rambling, should I? Yeah. Just by the by. So, what else have we got? Let's just work our way through the material here. We have. Okay, then let's just get to it. This is the best bit. Everybody, if you're in the room and you're like Mrs. or your fella or your ma'am or your kid, maybe not your kids, but anyone you know, get them in now to watch this, because this is the important part. So for those who don't know, most of you do. Antifa showed up, 4 or 5 of them, scraggy people, scraggy, shaggy, smelly people, and they showed up. They set up speakers in the back. They played music really, really loud to drown out the event. Some people in the crowd, some lads, reacted in a way that was very passionate and very direct. Passionate and direct. And they prevented the music from playing anymore, removed the signage and removed the music vigorously and assuredly, type of thing. Call it what you want. They went over and basically ripped the sign and the speakers down, stuff like that. I don't think anyone was hurt or attacked or punched or beaten up or any of that stuff. When I say I don't think so, I kind of pretty much know so. Like, it was more just, taking stuff down and running them out of the place, just like, get the F out of here. And you'll see it for yourself in a second. Someone says the Man Mountain. Yeah, I think all the girls were a bit weak for Man Mountain. Beast Man. Proper dub. I don't know, my doc sent someone to say a dub. He could be from Galway. He could be from Donegal. I don't really know. But Beast Man, we all know who he is. Grey tracksuit. I'm told he's sound as a pound. Sound as a pound and gentle as you could ever have to talk to. Just trying to defend people from the violence that Antifa mete out on the regular. It's no secret. Nobody can deny it. So yeah, I'm told, a friend of a friend told me that he's a sound legend to talk to, right? And you'll see it yourself. It's class. But yeah, I think there was a bit of nationalist kind of Beatlemania there among the Bures. Actually, probably a bit of the lads as well, kind of being like that legend. The lads are like, what is it? Women want him, men want to be him. Well, what did someone call him there just a while ago? Wolfhound. There was a word. There was a term. We need a term, you know. Wolfhound, if you're listening there, remind me again what that one was. The chat's gone away from me. But yeah. So anyway, that happened. And again, it wasn't quite what you describe as Man Mountain. Yeah, the Man Mountain. But or like the Grey Mountain, you know, something like that. But yeah, so again, it's not quite what I would call violence. I'm not even being glib there, but it wasn't, you know what I mean? It depends on your definition, but it's like, you know, no one was getting attacked or beaten up or any of that stuff. They were just getting kind of run out of it for being idiots. Like what they'll say is the Antifas will say, oh, we were just peacefully counter-protesting. You know, it's like, look, we know you're not doing that. Leah Doherty, for example, was one of them, threw like a mixed substance liquid over Gran Torino. You know what I mean? It's like, look, if there was 10 of you and one of me, you'd like kick me half to death on the ground, and you do it only in like 10 numbers together, or in big numbers together. You know, that's where you're at. So when you show up and we know that's what you're like, and then you start disturbing, it's not too much to like run you out of it relatively peacefully. And especially the music. If that music had kept playing, a big mad speaker would have cancelled the entire event. Now that is, I don't know the law on that stuff, but you know, it's like there's like a peaceful protest, and then there's like heckler's veto type of stuff, you know, where you actually prevent another person from exercising their free speech via the kind of violence of drowning someone out in a way, preventing them from being able to communicate with other people. And I'm getting a bit long-winded there, but my point is like, I you know, this was absolutely fine and justified, I think, because I'll put it this way as well. If you have a track record of like catching people off guard violently, and you and your movement do, you know, when you have the chance, and then you show up in the corner, if you have a history of doing that with like, let's say, black people, right? Now you'd be in jail pretty quickly and, you know, gone. But if you had a history of that, let's say with black people, and then you showed up to a Black Lives Matter march, you know, a big Black Lives Matter event, and you go right up behind it with loads of speakers to drown out their mics and their whole event, playing like some kind of American History X music and holding up like a White Lives Matter banner. Like, I'm going to expect, I'd consider myself extremely lucky if the people at that event came up and just ripped the sign off me and kicked out the speakers. I mean, I just think in normal terms, most people understand in terms of basic respect, like, you know, come on. And here's an interesting part, lads, by the way, is that you'll notice that there's two men there, and they stand back into the doorway, and the three women go up front line with the sign. Now, I'm not going to say that, you know, they were expecting to be beaten up, because, you know, as people showed, there actually was no direct violence like that. We're kind of better than that. But, you know, in a volatile situation like that, right? Come on, anybody knows, whoever starts it or whatever, that things can be volatile in a large crowd situation like that, where it's intentionally inflamed by people in that way. So, you know, I'm not saying, you know, they were no, I was like, they know what way it could end up going, right? Given the situation that it is, not because our side are prone to violence, just because it's a volatile situation that they are setting up. And they put three women right up front. Now, that is cynical. You know, we would never, ever, ever, ever do that. We don't counter-protest people anyway. We just don't bother. But if we were to, it's going to be some men at the front. And you know what? It's probably going to be the strongest men will even say to the weaker men, you go back too, bruh. You know, like, you know, there's just, so it's a male-female thing, but it's also just a responsibility thing. You know, like, we don't want some like total, like, you know, dweebs like myself getting crushed at the front. I'm not full dweeb, right? I'm being, you know, I'm not going to rank myself on that terms, but I'm far from Grey Mountain, man. So I wouldn't be an ideal candidate. But you know what I'm saying, right? It's just that we'd have a sense of decency. At the very least, all the men would stand up front, right? I'd happily stand. I would not let any woman, like friend and peer and, you know, compatriot of any type, really, stand up in front and in a volatile situation. it just shows the level of scum that these people are. Because and one, they're thinking, oh, it'll be a great press up, but it's like they're valuing. It's just disgusting, and even that the women themselves go along with that, knowing what, like, it's like, and what you're looking for is your photograph. I think one of them had a camera on the roll as well. They're hoping to get people are ranking my levels of either some, on the beast dweeb, like 1 to 10. That's funny. Ask for that one, but so you know what I mean. That's just bad. Anyway, let's watch it because it's very enjoyable.
Being a defense mechanism that abusers use to cope with how awful the events that happened to them were, and we can see.
Pedos come off our streets. So they had to be escorted out of there by the police. Someone saying the frame rate's all over the place. I did my best, but and I've fair enough pointing it out, by the way. But the energy there is so good. I love righteous indignation. I've always despised conservative meekness and kind of, I don't know what you would say, kind of like I wouldn't even call it morality because it's not moral. It's not good. This kind of meekness, this kind of like, well, it's like while someone's trying to take your head off, you're spouting on about going for the ball and not the man, and like it just hurts me. And I like populist, righteous, fevered almost indignation. I like that. I think it's good in the right place, and we have a just cause. Of course, non-violent, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I just mean that energy, that vibe, and it was there in spades on Saturday. And yeah, you have Justin's kind of speaking, reverberating over the crowd, mixing with their music, whether you like their music or not. It was loud, kind of rocky, kind of punk music. Thanks for giving us the soundtrack, lads. And then just the way it's framed and shot. There's a few different shots of this happening, but just the whole way it comes together, and then everyone just going pedo scum and all that. It's just epic, absolutely epic. So funny little things came out of that, of course. Oh, by the way, capture the flag. So the lads got the flag off the Antifas. Oh, by the way, one thing, the Birkin had such a funny little line in their article today about this. It's so funny. I'd say whoever wrote this, right? I'd say enjoyed writing this, because they describe what happened. They say, and break out it did when, during a speech by National Party leader Justin Barrett, a few counter-protesters began blaring music, unfurling a banner reading, quote, "All you fascists bound to lose," unquote. And then this is the line. In that regard, there was a certain irony in the following moments. In that regard, there was a certain irony in the following moments for their banner, "All you fascists bound to lose." So, yeah, the flag was captured, and Rowan and a few lads took it somewhere and gave us this beautiful video.
We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire.
Yeah. It's just total victory. And I need to talk about Antifa, because I'm worried about Antifa, actually. I'm worried. I'm concerned about Antifa. Are Antifa okay? Now, obviously, well, is there more for me to show you here? I'll just finish up on this amount of it anyway. So we have what came out of it. This is just a little funny thing. I'm sick of whinging about the media not covering things fairly. So I think Catholic Arena on Twitter mentioned it. Said, like, don't give out about the media. Like, we know they're basically a state within a state at this point. It's just like, they are what they are. You know what I mean? Let's be our own media, our own voices, our own lines of communication. Let's just do it that way. But it's, in spite of me saying that, the Irish Examiner here put up Gardaí break up scuffles between protesters. So the way they try to frame the entire thing, they could say, here's what happened. Here's the Roderick thing. Here's pictures of the demo. They don't have to give us flattering photos, just neutral. Like, here's pictures of the demo. This was a minor little moment there. I'm sure they could mention it, but they just say there were scuffles. What they do is try to say there's these crazy, like, weirdo Antifa people. They don't even say that much. I remember being like 15 and I'd like scan a newspaper sometime if I was waiting in an office or something like that. I'd like read a newspaper, and I remember reading the news. I have distinct old memories of remembering seeing various news tactics, and I remember it from a normie point of view, what it looks like. You read a thing like this and you just go, basically headbangers. You just go, it's all just a bunch of headbanger, like not extremists, but like fringe kind of like mad yokes that are totally like on the margins of society, and they're like battling with each other or some silly thing, and you think of it as just inane and stupid. And I think that's they can't quite condemn us, they can't quite lie too hard about it, so what they do is they just go with that angle. Yes, it's just two groups of equally inane, like, runts groups fighting with each other, bickering and scrapping with each other on the street. Pay no mind to it. You almost feel revolted even looking at the headline, and seeing it, and you'd look no further into it. You don't know anymore because they don't tell you anymore. And that's what they do here. Gardaí break up scuffles between protesters. Oh God, protesters, here we go again. These like vaguely anarchist looking type people. And they attach the picture of Leah Doherty, the Antifa like wench, to it, and the impression you would get there is that she is one of the, because they're talking about Roderick O'Gorman, Peter Tatchell, you'd go, are these the people protesting? God, it's not a good look. To know, am I interested in these kind of people at all, really? And it's like, no, they're the ones who came along to do ours. But I just thought that was interesting. And then more importantly, compare that, right? The Examiner. How many people see the Examiner? Like 10 people read that, right? One of them's probably like me. But what you had was someone like here, Paul Joseph Watson. He quote tweeted the Burkean video, the one you just kind of saw, and he said, "Imagine protesting an anti-pedo event," and it's probably got more now. 10,000 retweets, 25,000 likes. You had Count Dankala, you had Ian Miles Chong, all these big accounts getting. I mean, I'd like to see what's that? Nearly 1 million views. So basically, several million views all over the place. Massive. Totally outstripping any Irish Times or RT, any of that stuff. Keith Wood says, I wonder who sent that to PJW. I mean, that's either, I'm not to be thick, but I'm like, does he mean it's him? Yeah, either Keith's being sarcastic there or whatever. But someone sent it to him. Come here, these connections are all made anyway. Whether, like, yeah, everybody knows everybody, right? And it's great because there's this big, I don't know, we have our own kind of external help in a way. And of course the NGOs will say, like, Garrod Murphy says he has foreign, okay, Keith Wood says I did, good man. Building bridges, but with old PJW. But yeah, and then I think so maybe Paul Joseph Watson was the first, so credit there, because if he was the first to get it, then it went to Count Dankla, it went to all these others. And that's a big thing. And it was, it's like it's custom made, because it's like, I have to say, and I'll talk about Antifa now in that way, because the way this came out, I don't mean this in a like Keith sent it on, right, and brilliant, but in a way it's kind of like the moment, and I think Keith, you said this as well at some point, is that the moment you saw all this happening, you knew it was going to go kind of big. And I think a lot of people did, right? You know, it's 1, 2, 3, really. You're just going, this is like, yeah, this is, you know, the moment it happened, it's like, yeah, and this time tonight, it's going to be all over the place, right? Because it is what it is, you know. Antifa protest, an anti-pedophilia event, it's gold in its own kind of way. And that brings me on to Antifa, I suppose, because Antifa aren't what they used to be. You know, I was thinking about it like let's say in the 90s and even the early noughties, pre-Globo Pedo, Globo HO, Ireland, pre the Ireland Una, or not Una Mullally, Jesus Christ. Excuse me for the blasphemy. Angela Nagel, she wrote all about this today. Did I link that one? If I haven't linked that, I'll do it again. But this kind of new Ireland, new Globo Ireland. Before that happened, you know, this kind of like the hard lads, the tough lads, and then just the working class women, the mams, that, you know, and then just middle class, whatever, you know, whatever about the classes, but just kind of reasonably ordinary, straight up, solid people, would have gone for the left, and by left, all these definitions are gone out the window, lads, but they would have gone for not just the left economically. Here's what would have happened. They would have went for the left economically, ostensibly. That's what they were told, and that's what got them into it. It's like Labour in the UK or something. They would have gone for Labour on the face of it, but then Labour behind the scenes are working on and dedicated to immigration, drag queen story hour, this, that, and the other, you know, and they're working off the support they get from ordinary people based on the idea that, like, I live on an estate, I'm a normal person, I don't own stocks and shares, I don't own a load of properties, I'm not some kind of jet, I don't fly around the place all the time, I'm an ordinary person, and I feel like you're the guys who represent me and whatever. So they kind of like smuggle that through customs. And that's what was the source of their power, I suppose, against any kind of dissident right in Ireland, because the right had its own problems. The map looked kind of favorable to the scummy Antifa times at that time. They could manipulate that situation very well. And I saw it today because I'm blocked, but someone showed it to me because I'm too lazy to ever sign out of Twitter. But Leah Doherty and these, you know, people, whoever they are, these scummy, dirty Antifas, they were having meltdowns. And they've been doing so for a while. These are the most insane version of Antifa in Ireland. Like, they're some of the most like pathetic, basically, but they were in kind of disarray basically after this happening to them. Such a crushing defeat and disgracing defeat. And they were kind of turning, like they were saying, oh, Dublin Antifa are a disgrace. They were basically like hope posting that it wasn't their fault. It was like all the other Antifas that didn't show up, and give them numbers and strength in numbers and all that kind of stuff. And they were bitching about them, going, they're useless, they don't show up, they won't fight the racists and the fascists and all this stuff and all that. So they were bitching at them. And then they went on this thread. I wish I had it actually. I was a little bit on the lazy side. I didn't screenshot that, but you can find it like if you want to. But they were saying like effectively like Antifa is in disarray, like evidently from Saturday we saw that, but like they were saying it's in disarray, like they got crushed this time, but even the last few times when they've had decent numbers, they didn't have enough numbers to have that kind of Antifa effect of like overwhelming kind of, you know, they haven't had that in a long time, not in this era. They'd have to go back to Pegida in 2016 or 15. But in our era, the ones you and I like this generation, they haven't had it. And it reached a floor. It reached its floor as rock bottom last Saturday. And I'm sure they might improve other times, but it's really bad way. And Leah and them are bitching. Now, by the way, if I were, and I'm sure some of the bigger brain Antifa / NGO / kind of media people, a lot of them know each other. These kind of general schemers and planners and state kind of proxies. Among each other, the smarter ones, the kind of more clever ones, must be livid with Leah Doherty and Eamon, whatever his name is, and all of them. They must be. I would be livid if our side, there was an element of our side effed up that badly. I really would be. I'd be like, lads, look, basically the donkey work was done before the demo, in the fact that this was framed not in any misleadingly way. It's accurate. It's just the truth. But, you know, it was emphasized, let's say, that this is an anti-pedophilia demonstration, right? That's it. End of story. And that was locked in by the time people showed up on Saturday afternoon. And that was it. The messaging, the word was out. So any attempt to show up, and there were going to be big numbers of us, so you're not going to outnumber us anyway. You're not going to outnumber us, and rhetorically you're defeated from before it even starts. So, you know, if I were an Antifa strategist at that point, I would have said, listen, lads, we're just going to let this one slide, let them have their demo, whatever, just like, you know, hill to die on. A lot of people mention that, like, this is another hill to die on, let's just stay away. And these guys are so insane and so low IQ that they couldn't resist. It's shocking. I'm actually shocked. I'm actually appalled that they came. Like, I'm delighted from my point of view, but from a purely faith and humanity point of view, and a kind of almost like a strange empathy for the smarter people within Irish Antifa, I don't, you know, these kind of people, I almost feel sorry for them, that they were so undermined by their most stupid members, basically. Speaking about Saturday, and I think it's because there's a few reasons. I mean, I think most of you, like someone was telling me on Saturday, they were just giving me their kind of 2 cents on it, is that Antifa has a couple of strands. It's kind of not necessarily all one. Someone says my sound is going. Let me know when it's back. I'll just keep kind of talking meaningless, inane stuff until it comes back. But so yeah, blah-de bloody blah. Let me know. So there's kind of like it's not all one solid group. It's a bit diffuse as well, and you have PO student union kind of left. I can't use the words I want to use to describe them. The word maybe, you know, that kind of like whatever. That kind of like, you know, they are what they are. And then the Republican tradition, like, I don't know, Sinn Féin / RA / just Republican kind of thing like that. I don't know what you would call it. Sound going again. I'm really enjoying this, you know, and that's really annoying me. The sound. So I'll just keep going. There's that kind of hard Antifa basically, and see, we saw a few months ago there weren't enough of them. They ended up making themselves look really bad. It's not all about brute strength, but it's also about, and I'm not going to lie, at those free speech rallies, it was largely my savvy that caught all them by the that time. But that group, and then there was a third group. What was it again? It was someone else. Yeah, there's a couple of little groups of them, right? Oh, that third one is bothering me now. It was a guy I was talking to anyway. It was just his kind of generalish kind of theory. But there's a few strands of Antifa, and what I think is happening is that kind of hard. Oh, and sorry, I'm all over the place. Leah and her buddies, one of them mentioned, they said that they effectively admitted that they had lost the West Dublin support in terms of working class communities, whether it's mams and daughters and females and well, everybody's peaceful, right? But like, you know, just kind of ordinary people. And then also in terms of, and I'm not talking about engaging in violence or initiating it, but just the idea of muscle, right? Just the idea that, let's phrase it this way, you wouldn't want to attack that group, you know, a group with this contingent in it who are peaceful. You wouldn't want to attack them. You wouldn't want to attack that group with this contingent in it. And they effectively conceded in this little conversation they were publicly having with each other, again, idiots, that this kind of broader left, this broader Antifa kind of type of thing, had basically lost them. And you know where they are? They're inside with us. All sound is a pound, not looking for violence, trying to avoid it, in fact. But like, you know what I mean? We're talking people who can look after themselves and others. And then it's just an issue of numbers as well, and quality of just like, you know, you're not left with just a bunch of activists and a bunch of weird inner urban people. You have actually, heartland people, suburban people, a lot of people in communities that have been let down as well, obviously, who look at our message and they see it as being the message for them. The liars will tell you, oh, they're just taking advantage of disenfranchised people who don't understand what's going on, and they're manipulating them through emotional this and that, and appealing to hate and all. It's not. No, it's because we talk about the fact that they're foreigners in their own communities. They can't get on social houses. They don't. The community is gone. They, for example, parental separation and stuff like that. I'm not like a hardliner on all that. It is what it is. But like, just they see their communities like decimated, deracinated, atomized, drugs, everything, all this stuff, right? And immigration and culture is a big part of it, because it's community, family, culture, nation, God, all this kind of stuff is what ties a community together. Keith mentioned it a while ago on a comment he made on this actually as well, is that the left think, because the left are complaining that, oh, we're winning over these people, and what the left will say is, it's not the working class's fault that they're hanging out with these quote unquote racists. It's that the neoliberal system hasn't given them enough resources and given them enough. They've been underfunded, inequality and all that kind of stuff. And that's why they're gravitating towards the radical right, or nationalists, we'll say. And they'll explain it like that. And as Keith said, these kind of globalists, globopedos, whatever left, look at things through a purely material framework. They can't understand anything beyond the material. It's like, yeah, I agree that these communities have been financially let down in ways, but actually what they're really missing, but not just like, I'm not just like, oh, working class community, every community, all types of, everyone in general, but it hits people who are economically deprived probably harder, because they don't have the cushion of money and holidays and this and that and all this nice stuff, to maybe consumerism even, to distract them. They're left in the kind of just, without as many options for fun and for experience and travel and all this stuff, and so this kind of absence of family and absence of culture and tradition and community, tight-knit community, because there's nothing like the community, back in my day at least, of an estate. That's where I learned what community was all about, what this, it's a lovely thing. And, that's what used to make it so that, like, okay, you might live in a fancy posh house somewhere versus the guy who works or lives in an estate. But actually the estate has something going on, something cool about it too. And everyone loves it. They love their community. They stand up for their community. And that's actually being ripped away a little bit by this immigration, by this anti kind of family vibe, all that stuff, policies basically. But so they're coming towards us. And certainly, if they're not, they are coming towards us, but maybe they're less inclined as well to fight us. The wind is out of their sails, because you have these like weirdo Antifa, lefty, globalist kind of leader people who are like leading people on the way they used to get away with in the 80s and 90s. Like they used to get away with leading people down the garden path up until the mid-noughties, or really up until now. They got away with it because they could say, well, we're economically lefty, and even though we plan for all this like globopedo and population replacement, even though we advocate for all of that, it kind of hasn't happened yet. So all is that we're saying we want more, equality, and we're for your side. So they got away with it, but that train has come to its end now. It's too obvious, right? You've presided over this, you continue to preside over it, and all you want to do is ramp it up. You're no friend of these people. It's not a trick. It's not our hypnosis. It's not the fact that, as Keith pointed out there, like, it's not the fact that the system itself hasn't thrown enough like money at these communities, because it goes all way beyond that. It just basically, it is what it is at this point. Like the fact that we appeal to more people now, and we appeal less as enemies to also those people. The fact that basically the beaten heart, the kind of, you could say the muscle, the beaten heart, the strength, the vigor that made up, or what made up the vigor and the beating heart and the muscle of Antifa, no longer wants to fight us. And indeed, I think they might want to join us. And that's it. And there's no trick. There's no strange reason for that. There's no sleight of hand. It's because the reason you appeal less to them and we appeal more to them is because we appeal more to them. Our ideas, our point of view, us as people, all of it. We just appeal more to them for upfront, open, known, obvious, honest reasons. That's all. So Antifa are in disarray in that sense, and it's, I don't know, it gets me thinking, like, where do they go from here? Because our protests will grow. At some point, we'll have a 2,000 person demo there with really good optics, really good messaging, all that kind of stuff. Things can always go wrong, of course, but we'll have one like that. What are they going to do? Like, even if the Antifa do try to rally bigger numbers, they're not going to have enough. That ship has sailed, I think, honestly. It might be the odd catch you off guard somewhere, or, you know, this kind of thing, this kind of silly stuff. But in terms of street presence, nah. And the other thing is, by the way, all that among these different crowds of Antifa, you have the, you know, I've described those different blocks and the dynamics that make it up. As much as they've lost all that kind of vital aspect of themselves, they have grown in numbers of the global pedo. Like, look at a Pride March. A Pride March has 100,000 people on it, or whatever. Lots of people, 50,000, 40,000, something like that. You'll get it at something like Pride, Black Lives Matter. I walked the entire journey of Black Lives Matter with a COVID mask on and sunglasses. It was funny, but you know, that was a big one too. And I remember going to that BLM thing and thinking, oh, I hope I don't get like spotted and attacked at this or whatever, you know, because I'm not a huge fan of being attacked. But I was like, I'll chance it anyway, whatever. And immediately when I got in among the crowd, I went, no, there's zero apprehension here. These people aren't the people I was thinking of. And the people I was thinking of, there's none of them here, actually. I can't see any. I have a good eye for these things, and they're just not here. These people are all bougie, a word I like to say a lot. They're bougie, they're soft. You know, I kind of felt like, you know what, even if like 10,000 of these people came to a thing where we had 2,000, I'm not talking about, I don't want any fights here, and I don't expect, but I'm just talking about even if nothing happens and nothing breaks out, just the kind of knowledge and the potential and the confidence is all I'm kind of getting at. I wouldn't be afraid of that, really. I'd just be like, what are you going to do? Just stand there and like wave your like glitter, you know, ball around, or your, there's no such thing as a glitter ball. Probably think of a glitter hole, a disco ball, or a you know, just the way they are, like the crowd that showed up at Google that time to defend Google. It's these guys, they're growing and everybody else is going away and kind of coming to us. I'm like, that's not really a street presence. And the reason I say it is not because I expect everything to come down to violence or depend on violence. Not at all. I desperately want to avoid that at all times. And almost everybody on our side does. We don't counter protest. We don't fight. We don't start things with anyone, nothing. But, you know, so it's not that we have an interest in violence. What I'm getting at is that our opposition have traditionally and need to depend. They are the ones who need to depend on violence, because a non-violent situation where we can grow in numbers and plow on and do our thing and comfort and peace, and I mean, everybody knows that works fantastic for us. That's fine, right? They're the ones who depend on violence, and what I'm saying is that I don't think that's really going to be available to them. I can't see. I'm kind of doing the maths on it, and I'm feeling pretty bad for Antifa. You know, and that's it. And the question then is, of course, if they can't stop us with that, then it does move on to guards. It does move on to guards. It moves into agent provocateurs. But we've gotten our hands around agent provocateurs, figuratively speaking, and kind of managed to neutralize that prospect in its own way anyway. All sorts of subversion. You know, it's a small country. It's harder to get away with that stuff, even Garda stuff then. And then the last resort, of course, is just to ban us, just to, like, I mean, straight up, guards, like, hate crime, hate speech, you're a banned movement, you're whatever. And at that point, it's a whole other ball game, and we go from there. But it's like the short to medium term looks pretty good in that sense, you know, like all things going okay. And I do feel bad for Antifa, and because Antifa aren't one homogenous block. And I kind of say this half sarcastically, but like, if you're Antifa and you're not like you know, IQ like 16 IQ, like Leah Doherty, Eamon Cruden, like people like that, And the Mark Malones of these people as well. They're I don't know. I'm just bored of them, to be honest. And like, I don't know. But if you're a member, like in some kind of half member of Antifa, that's kind of losing faith and are my message for Antifa. Oh no, I'm like proper gone. Or am I not? Oh, I thought I was gone. Okay, I'm back. West Dublin, people like that, and just whoever. We've been able to take all these good issues to manipulate. Oh, don't tell me I'm gone again. I've had this wreck in my head, wrecking my buzz. Back. I have to just get it done because I know it's annoying you as well, more than me probably. No, I have a 0.5 megabyte upload speed. Someone's asking me that's how bad it is, but is just that like it's not a trick. Like the fact that like we seem to have this kind of upward trajectory and kind of association with the kind of people you traditionally like to think were on your side and your people or something like that. The fact that that's all moving our way and away from your side. And it's also not that your side, so to speak, has what it is, as I think I've described. It kind of is what it is. So maybe just consider joining us, right? You know, there's a lot of bad people in Antifa, but you get my point. Is like they should consider someone on the margins of that kind of cultural scene, maybe, who is decent. Just why don't you try and by yourself attend one of these things? Don't try to smack someone. Stand there like a normal human being and just hang around and say hi to someone. Get on with them. Even if you're fully convinced you're going to leave and say, I totally don't like these people and I thought the message was really bad and mean. And even if you're fully convinced you're going to leave with that take, well, just at least try it. Have a go, right? Like I say, I've been to all these. I was at the entire Black Lives Matter march. I walked through the entire thing. I even stopped, asked people for pictures with their signs and stuff like that, right? Just for journalism purposes. And, you know, ended up chatting to some people like that and having smiley chats and all that because they're human beings, right? They are like, you know, these people I don't like in a lot of ways, but I gave it a go and I was still able to walk away going confident. I'm like secure in that I was able to walk away and go, well, I'm not swayed or anything, but I was able to go and give it a go and stand around it and check it out and stuff like that without trying to hit one of them, you know, or ruin their lives or something like that. So just try sometime by yourself, no scheming. That's the last thing I want, right? And we'll be ready for that anyway. But, you know, try to just go by yourself. No one has to know. I don't know, disguise yourself or something. Say you're doing it for research to your buddies and just talk to people. Talk to the people you think have stolen this thunder or something. Just talk to people, figure it out and see. John Connor's speech, I'm a proud traveller man, got a massive applause. I'm not trying to say we're all about diversity. No, we're not. We're open about that. We think that's a bad ideology and demographics matters and all that stuff. But just spirit-wise, there's no evil. There's no malice, murderous, genocidal intent. This is all lies, right? So just go with it. Just go with it. Just relax and go with it. That's all I want to say. So, lads, I hope I did you a decent enough service tonight. I might have went off on some tangents and talked a lot. So thanks again to Miss Molly, who was so nice to come up to me and and just be, just be really nice and say hello. It was very flattering and sound as well. Yeah, and to everybody else. Anyway, it's no point doing too much of a victory lap. Gotta always look back and see what's wrong. We are hardly in a winning position. Roderick O'Gorman has not resigned. We are ultimately a small dissident movement, and the whole world is effectively against us and all that. So don't get carried away. I just wanted to kind of emphasize some of the positives tonight. So look, I'll be back tomorrow night. I appreciate you listening, even throughout all the lag and the bandwidth issues. So yeah, thanks very much, lads. Ihawa. See ya.